Hello and welcome to NEWSPASTY with me, your host Johnny Vedmore. And today we're going to look at some trite James O'Brien propaganda from LBC Radio, or whatever it is. It's radio with video. I don't see that as radio anymore. Um, and everybody who doesn't know James O'Brien knows he's a whining little shit. And one of the things he likes to do is whine all of the damn time. And on this occasion, I'm showing you this because, of course, he uses logical fallacy. He uses something simple. He sets up a straw man argument, and this is what they do. And I wanted to show you this because it's necessary for people to understand quite what these guys are doing and why they doing it, how they do it, and how they keep people's mind. Because a lot of people, they say basically, I don't understand why all of these people listen to James O'Brien. They say, I don't understand it. Why would people listen to James O'Brien? And quite simply, it's because of a load of tricks, using logical fallacies to trick you that he is actually a knowledgeable person about stuff. But in actual fact, he's just a very good at debating when it's weak opposition. Same as Ben Shapiro. It's not a surprise that the majority of the infamous Ben Shapiro clips were him debating university students and people who haven't got their arguments straight yet. That built him a profile, didn't it? Loads of videos of him showing up little children. They're kids. They don't have the ability to reason and use logical arguments. He's much more careful about going up someone against someone his own intellect or his own age, isn't he? Because they're cowards. Same as James O'Brien. Their call handlers will sift through the calls and will decide which ones will allow him to wield the topic. So they'll bring on a load of people who, in this case, they're talking about woke culture, a load of people who will agree with him, and then they'll bring on someone who doesn't. And that seems fair, doesn't it? Except the person who doesn't agree with him is also being carefully selected because he can't argue for Tosh. So this is how they do it. Logical fallacies. Look, he's snuffling into his microphone. Is he falling asleep? Is his eyes too close together? Maybe they are.
James, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm anti-woke.
Excellent. Is it in your Twitter profile?
So straight away, you can see his manner. He's waiting. He's not very welcoming. He's like, yes, hello. He knows what call this is going to be. He's already been told by his producers, you're now going to talk to the guy who's anti-woke, who doesn't know anything, who you could destroy. So he is the lamb put up to sacrifice to make James O'Brien look like either a high priest or a god.
I don't have Twitter. I've got Instagram, but it's in my Instagram.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Well, what does it mean to me?
Very interesting as well, arguing technique. So he's asking him here, what does woke mean? Of course, you should know what woke means if you're going to have a conversation about it. But first of all, what he does is say, when he says, I'm anti-woke, James O'Brien responds with, is it in your Twitter file? And that knocks someone off kilter, having to think of something else. These are little tricks. Now, they may not work on me or they may not work on James O'Brien, but they'll work on someone who doesn't regularly argue with people, like the guy we're about to hear from. And if you actually look at the guy who we're about to hear, the guy who we're about to listen to, you will say, this guy knows nothing. Why would you even put him on the radio? Because he's the straw man for the anti-woke argument, the anti-woke crowd. Now, if I was to describe woke, and I'm not reading off a screen, I'm going off my head here, I would describe it as a system of virtue signaling that allows popular trends and cultures to infiltrate the general population and make them hard to argue against, because you'll be arguing in a way that a logical fallacy works, because you'll be arguing against things that seem righteous. So someone's right to choose what they do in life. Why would you question that? Well, when it comes down to the trans debate, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want grown men pretending to be trans so they can get into a female bathroom and rape a child. Now, that is one hell of a a thing that to say in response to why don't you want this person to live their life? Oh, this person who's trans over here, who identifies as a woman, who is probably not doing anything negative and is just trying to get on with their life, will be the person we'll put up. But they're not the person, they're not the people that the anti-woke are actually scared of. The anti-woke are actually scared of this very extreme, less likely possibility, usually men who are using these things, these ideologies that get inserted in while trending into public policy and affect our everyday lives. Woke is about the transference of virtuous ideology that stops most people from arguing against it into public policy and forcing people then to accept the extremes. So the extremes being that I don't want a paedophile hanging around with a little girl in a female safe space. And they'll say, well, not every trans person is a paedophile, but they still ignore the fact that pedophiles will use every method possible, including disguise and subterfuge to get their way. So we know what the woke agenda is. The woke agenda is, I personally want to be called they, them, and you have to now have your speech coerced. It's, I want to live this way that you don't agree with, and then you've got to put your kids at risk from other people who will use my agenda and hijack my agenda. And if you try and mention those people, I will call you a racist or a homophobe or an anti-Semite. And that's what it is. It's the use of virtue. It's the use of virtue, a trending virtue. So this guy doesn't know that. But other people like myself, I can describe it. But even me, I have to describe it for a while. I have to have the space to describe it. I have to have the freedom to be able to distinguish the argument, how it's correct, and explain to people why it's important that that doesn't happen. But here, we don't have that, do we? We have, he'll get interrupted straight away, but he's not got the ability or the logical mind to be able to explain and communicate his fears.
People have different interpretations of anti-woke or wokeism. To me, it means people who seek offence where it doesn't exist. They look for the tiniest little thing and pin on it. And
well, everyone would be anti that, wouldn't they?
So he's trying to explain, as straight away this guy has hit down, face first. He thought everybody, James O'Brien will understand what woke means. The audience will understand what woke mean. And all of the people on this guy's side of the argument will understand what woke mean. So he hasn't prepared himself for being asked a simple question. And that's because he shouldn't be on a radio chat show against someone of the caliber of James O'Brien, who's able to argue and argues for a living. That's insane. It's putting up, you're putting a 2-year-old child up against a professional boxer. Not a real good professional boxer, just one who's at a high enough level that the child is going to get pulverized in the face. And that is what the LBC team have chosen. And they do it all of the time. This is all of the time. This is a fallacy. They put up straw men. They put up really arguments that are really easy to beat.
No, it's a bit like driving in a bus lane, but not your full car's not in the bus lane. It's just one wheel that's in the bus lane.
You've lost me now. So being someone who's hypersensitive and pedantic is that's annoying and boring for everybody. Maybe we should work in examples. So when
hypersensitivity and pedantic being put into law and public policy means you no longer have the rule of law. And you no longer have public policy fit for public use. So that's really important. And that is what's happening.
When you come across, when and where do you come across the sort of wokeness to which you are so passionately opposed?
Well,
apart from in the bus lane.
again, you see, he goes to ask him. He stops for a second. When the guy goes to respond, then he cuts him off and he ridicules his last question. Again, a technique of destabilization to make sure that this halfwit isn't going to get all of his wits together, that he's not going to be able to get an argument. Now, this guy, if your arguments this week, you should be actually researching beforehand, or you should at least have your computer open and be able to search definition for woke, something as simple as that, to be able to describe it. But now he's gone on for a couple of minutes or a minute, and James O'Brien is picking at him like he's already dead, like he's a vulture picking at a dead body.
I used to work in local authority. I'm now self-employed, but when I worked in local authority, you didn't get on with your work. There was a few hours a week dedicated to these sort of woke agendas.
Yeah, go on.
Going on these sort of courses and these
Again, a really bad argument, So he's trying to find a way for him to describe himself, but this is a way that you'd have in a pub with somebody who agrees with you. This guy has no ability to actually argue with people from the other side of the debate. He thinks he has. Again, he's been chosen. He's been chosen to be this person, to be this puppet, to be this thing that gets beaten.
Internal training courses and
like what though? What were they teaching?
It was all very insincere.
Well, you might have been. You can't speak for anybody else.
No, but
so what were they teaching you?
So these trainers.
What sort of courses?
These trainers would hold these courses.
Yeah,
and I know how much they're paid. They're paid an absolute fortune, and they regurgitate.
That's not anti-woke, mate. That's just envy. So, what were the courses? What were they designed to do?
Now, as you see, this guy is having a really hard time in being able to explain anything. He doesn't he's gone down a route here where he didn't like some trainers. They get paid a lot, but it's true. What happens? What he's trying to say here is that in every company now, you get trained with the ideology of the company. So you get told what you're meant to think. And that is true. Training courses, whether it be induction courses, whether it be your regular training courses, whether it be even on first aid courses and other courses, you'll get these woke agendas, climate change agendas, all these different agendas that are rich for creating public policy out of fads or trends. You'll have all of these come up.
Well, I'm very envious.
I know you are, but what were the courses designed to do? What were they training you to do? What were they doing?
I think they were designed to stifle rational discussion and debate.
Well, they put that on the agenda. They put that on the door, did they?
No, but that was
so. What were they designed to do? What's
No doubt this guy's going on training courses and they include part of the woke agenda. But if he says out loud, it's a course on recruitment or it's a course on something else, I'll say, well, that's a course on recruitment. That wasn't a woke agenda. But it includes a load of things that are woke. Oh, yeah. And everybody nowadays doesn't get a job unless they toe the line of the company or doesn't get promotion unless they toe the line of the company. We all know this has actually been the same way since the dawn of time.
What sort of courses are we talking about?
I just said, am I in an echo chamber?
Well, clearly not, mate, no. Do you know what that means?
Again, they've chosen the person who doesn't understand definitions so it can get to this base level. This isn't even worth putting out on the radio. This isn't worth making into a video clip. This is James O'Brien and LBC hitting something out of the park in a way that looks vulgar. It looks vulgar. They've chosen someone who's intellectually inferior in the way he debates with James O'Brien, and they've put him out front and center. It's terrible. This doesn't mean that the woke agenda is correct. It doesn't mean the anti-woke agenda is wrong. It doesn't mean anything. Zero is learned from this.
No, I don't, but you're going to tell me.
So what were the courses officially designed to do?
Right. So we'd go on these courses,
yeah,
and you'd all be in a room, and it would be some topical discussion.
Oh, God. Down with that sort of thing.
About something that's happened lately. So
So they've chosen a guy again who can't even explain the very basics, and this allows James O'Brien to ridicule him, and people then love it. They love it. You know, this is conversationally, this is the gladiator going in the ring and then throwing in some malnourished slave who's never fought to have his head bashed in by the gladiator. This isn't proper entertainment. This isn't like the top bill. This isn't even bottom bill. This is someone getting their head smashed in.
What would happen?
It's awful, isn't it?
So what would happen?
Yeah.
The powers that be would say, "Oh, we better, this has happened in America.
Right.
We better send everyone on a course."
For example?
I don't want to quote examples, really.
You kind of have to.
I can't, because then you'll get everyone.
That's the point, isn't it, though? So
that's the point, though, isn't it, though? That's the point. Why would you have him on your show? If he's unable to get through a conversation with the people who are screening the calls, why the hell have you got him on your show? So that you could do this, you rub your head and go, look how stupid these anti-woke people are. Look how stupid they are. Anti-woke people are so stupid. They're so stupid.
Something that actually happened. That's all.
Well, you bring one up, and I'll give you. I'll play out a scenario.
No, because you're telling me what it means. And the example is these courses that you went on, and the rooms that you sat in, and the speeches that you listened to. So just tell me what they were about.
Let me think of one.
Take your time.
This is how low. This is how low. So low level of conversation that they've organized and arranged. This is the producers who should be fired immediately. This is probably at James O'Brien's request, because he wants fodder, doesn't he? He's a big gladiator who wants to pummel the head of the little slave, doesn't he? That's what his job is here, so that he can continue looking powerful like a gladiator instead of putting up someone who would match him in his ability. This is the producers who are producing the silence on air.
Still there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, let's say, for example, preventing barriers to staff progression. So people from certain religions, cultures, races, etc.
But you were going to give me an example of something that had happened in America.
Yeah, so that...
Wait. But then, for the first time, he's been able to give an example. And as soon as he goes on to give the example, after James O'Brien has asked multiple times and this guy's failed, as soon as he starts giving a precise, exact example, he brings it back to a place where the guy couldn't find an example. Do you see how simple this is? And for James O'Brien, this is really easy.
That's happened. No, I won't bring that up. I think...
Well, why not? Why don't you bring that up?
Because I think most of your listeners know what I'm referring to.
I have not got a clue.
I would assume that he was talking about January the 6th, and how it was all fake, and how it was all of the people like Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and others who were all pushing this narrative of, oh, it was the most awful thing and these people are the most terrible thing, when in actual fact it was just kind of like a parade around the area. Everybody had a little look. They had security lining, taking them, and others overreacted. Like the guy who shot the woman. Oh my God. Like, there was no need for that at all. So, I mean, that was a culmination of the woke agenda spilling over with a response and a backlash from people who, again, like this guy, are not able to explain why they're angry, but they're angry. The fact that they can't explain it doesn't make their anger any less relevant.
Okay.
So tell us.
Again, silence, created by producer, created
Just keep an
by
eye on
James O'Brien.
the emergency tape that kicks in when we have periods of silence that go over us. So just tell us. Everybody already knows, Carl. So just tell us what it is you object to having courses on when you worked at a local authority.
Well, I assume that it's little parts to courses, but again, he's taken him to a place where he knows he cannot answer because that's the safest and best place for James O'Brien to take people. It's all manufactured, manipulated, and he doesn't argue with people who can argue against him properly.
Well, I just think it's really insincere.
Yeah, but we can't really know what that means until you tell us what it was, can you? So what was it, mate?
Things I'm a bit scared to go down the rabbit hole.
Just to be clear, you didn't
me up and accuse.
Just to be clear, you didn't ring in. You didn't ring in by accident, did you?
Didn't ring in by accident, and he wasn't brought on by accident. Remember that. It was LBC studio, LBC team, LBC call handler, LBC producer who put this guy on.
No, of course not.
No. So
no
you
accident.
rang in to answer a question about what I am anti-woke,
so
you said. What does that mean? And you said, here are some examples. And I said, just name one.
And you said, what does it mean to you? So what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
It means to me people that actively seek offence where it doesn't exist.
Yeah, so what were the courses?
Again, there you go. He goes back to the place where this guy has stumbled into because he's a bad conversationalist, a bad debater, and he keeps taking him back to the place. And what does it do? Does it prove the guy's a liar, or does it prove that he can't remember how the courses went, but he remembers being upset at the time he went on the course that all of these things happened? Do we know that they're being trained, that people are being trained on a woke agenda? Yes! All over the country! So are you denying that? Is James O'Brien actually denying that people all over the country, all over the world, are being trained on the woke agenda? All over the place. It's not the entire training they receive. Parts of training. Yeah, some people might just see it as diversity training. But there's agenda. What you decide to train is the agenda. That's the agenda you're putting forward. He knows this. The guy can't describe this. Doesn't mean it does not exist. There's a fallacy for you. There is a fallacy for you.
Well, various courses.
Yeah, just give me one example then.
Well, preventing staff progression. People.
What do you think that means?
Well,
again, he's said something. Preventing staff progression. What he was again referring to is probably diversity hiring, and so that stops certain staff progressing. Unfortunately, the guy can't describe it. That is an issue that actually does exist. That is an issue that does concern anti-woke people. But James O'Brien knows he's probably talking about that, but he's jumping on anything he can to keep destroying him, because this guy does not work. His brain does not work if you stop it from working.
Just stop them progressing in their career.
So they were teaching you how to stop progressing in your career?
Not me, personally.
I suspect you didn't need any lessons.
No.
Wow, there you go. Insult him, but you've brought him on. Is your career to bring on really bad guests and have a really bad show that's really off kilter? Is that your choice in career, James O'Brien? Have you decided this is the format you want? That you hunch down. Look, he's hunched down right in the middle. Right now, you can barely see him. He's just like, off the whole screen, James O'Brien takes up maybe 10% at most of the screen. And he sits there hunched over, beating what anybody can happily call, even an anti-woke woke person could happily call a retard. Someone who's retarded, who thinks he knows he's going to argue well and gets there and hasn't prepared, hasn't thought about the words he's going to use to define the things he needs to say, which is a really big problem with having a conversation like this, especially with someone who's at a really high level. You have to be able to choose your words wisely, carefully, think about them, and not get frustrated when they're cutting you off all of the time. But what is he? He's sitting there insulting the guy who they brought on to insult. They brought it on so it can crescendo into what everybody who listens to LBC loves. James O'Brien insulting an idiot. That's what they watch it for. That's why people are turning on James O'Brien, to hear him insult the idiot. For that, again, what do you need? You need call handlers, call screeners, and producers who can recognize idiots and put them in front of you so you can beat them with your gladiatorial bat. That's what he's doing. And now he's insulting him. Well done. What a nice host.
I didn't. I went to work. I didn't go into work
what were you
to
taught
behave and be nice.
Oh, so these were courses encouraging people to behave and be nice that you object to. That's what you mean by woke. That's what all my other callers have already said.
I think we learn this when we grow up.
Well, some of us do.
I grew up in London.
Well, you're very lucky. You're all...
Again, guy's trying to speak. He keeps speaking over him and breaking him up all of the time. This guy already works at quite a low level of logic, and he tries to tell a story, and every time he'll bring him back to somewhere else he can't. There's a dead end, or you'll just cut him off constantly. All of this time while insulting him to make the show easier. That'll make it easier, won't it? This guy's having trouble explaining what he means, but because you don't like him, you could just ridicule him, take the mick out of him, and not help him. Because surely, if you want to understand the other side of the debate, you want to understand what really gets this guy and why this guy is acting this way, you're going to find a way to speak to him so that he'll speak to you rationally, cleverly, and be able to express what he thinks. Instead, what he's doing is they brought on someone who can't describe anything. They're beating him with a stick, and he continues to beat him, and it gets more and more violent towards the end, like any gladiatorial contest when it's a big gladiator versus a meek little slave servitude boy. And I bet you their wages are probably equal to that.
Already as well. Very nice and well behaved. What about people who aren't? Surely they'd benefit from these courses, Carl.
Well, you know, they are the ones that should be marginalised. But why do people look?
You want to marginalise people now? Isn't that woke? You want to marginalise people who aren't very nice? That's what everyone else has told me is woke.
No, but what he could very likely means is that they will marginalise themselves with their own behaviour, because that's what will happen. But that's not woke, because someone's rude to you, and you people say, all right, well, he's probably not going to have the same career prospects, the same career path. He's not going to get promotion. He's not going to be treated the same by everybody because he's nasty to everyone. That's not woke. That's just stupid. And what James O'Brien is doing here is twisting definitions. And in a sense, it's kind of witchcraft. Think about it. I mean, I'm not saying that he's actually doing this, but this is what spells are, isn't it? Spelling, definitions, spells. He's casting his definitions across.
No, I want the people that are nasty and horrible.
Yeah.
Marginalise them, get rid of them.
That's woke, though. That's what woke means. You're pro.
No, it doesn't. Again, you then think about it. If that's what woke means, if that's what James O'Brien says that's what woke means, then it means that they know they're purposely marginalising people they consider as hateful or nasty. But that's the whole point. It becomes identity politics of who you are and what you consider nasty. So I watched there's a 16-year-old kid who runs a podcast, really, really nice guy, came to me and spoke to me about coming on his podcast. And I watched a couple of his videos, and he's talking to one woman, and he said, one girl, and he says that Andrew Tate's brother follows him. And for that reason, the woman won't speak to him. She says, oh, that's a marker. What is a marker that someone else has chosen to follow a kid is a marker of them. That someone else saying something about someone else is a marker of them. And that's what we've got. This is what we've got. We've got to a point where people like James O'Brien see woke as something simple. I don't like them. They're repulsive, nasty people. They're horrible. So we should treat them badly. And we should marginalize them. And this guy comes on and says, well, hateful people get marginalized anyway, or attempts to say that. Just marginalize them anyway. And they're saying, but that's what we're doing. He's admitting, that's what we're doing. But then you're deciding what is hateful. You're deciding what to marginalize. You're deciding what characters are correct and what characters are not correct. What is woke and what isn't woke. You're deciding how someone should be and how someone shouldn't be. You're making that decision, and that's the problem. What James O'Brien is doing right now is the problem.
Woke, mate. You're not anti-woke.
your council tax shouldn't pay to send me on a day course.
Well, what you need to tell me what the course was. What's the course?
Pay for your bins to be collected.
On the contrary, I want local authorities to be run in a way that is forward-thinking and progressive. And if some
forward-thinking and progressive is the same as the people who are hateful or we consider hateful, we will get rid of. Forward-thinking and progressive alienates and marginalizes people, because it's all a generalized version of what progressive is. And what if progressive is wrong? Because nearly every single time, the thing that is considered progressive throughout history, the thing that's considered progressive at the time, later on turns out to be something that's just a trend or a fad and is ridiculed by the later generations. And that seems like a lot of that with what we're seeing with what we define as woke.
Some people, not you, because you don't need these courses, but if some people are holding back the rest of the organisation, then I think giving them some training is a wonderful idea. Go on, just tell everyone. You want them to be
progressive. You want them to be progressive, and you want them to hate the people who you want them to hate. You want them to push out and marginalize the people who you want them to hate. So you train them to hate certain people. That's not training I want local authorities to be on.
That they already know that you're talking about, but you're not prepared to say out loud. Because otherwise people might think you're a bit woke. You're frightened of causing offence, are you? Isn't that what woke means?
No, that's again twisting. He's not because frightened of causing offence. That's talking about his own personal life and identifying him in some way.
I have been cowed into silence by your lot.
No, mate, you have tied yourself in knots single-handedly.
I've been cowed into silence. You know who you are. It's your curtain twitchers. It's your ones that look out of their window and look.
Again, this guy, they've put this guy on the stage. That's the choice of LBC, the producers, the call screeners, and James O'Brien. That's what they want. Easy meat.
For offence where it doesn't exist.
At what point in this conversation do you think you lost the plot?
Are you on nextdoor.com, James? Are you on nextdoor.com?
Listen, I'm very happily married, Carl. So
no, you know.
Yeah, nextdoor.com isn't a dating site. Nextdoor.com is like a community site where basically people post up about things that are happening in your local area, and it's a hellhole, to be perfectly honest, and it's full of woke culture. It is. I had to stop going on there because it was just like hard to read some of the things people are writing. They're just, you realize the people who are living around you are pretty much down with the system.
Store.com. It's a society website.
Mate, I'm very happily married. Let's not go weird. Final chance. Are you going to...
Refusing to let him have a conversation, ridiculing his conversation. He was trying to make an example there, and again, he won't let him make the example. He has to be under James O'Brien's terms. If he goes to a place where James O'Brien doesn't know, he will steer it away. So he doesn't understand what nextdoor.com is, or the Nextdoor app. He doesn't understand what that is, but that makes no difference. He'll steer people away from anything where he's not going to be the victor on the battlefield. He's not going to be the big gladiator standing over a pulverized head.
Give me an example of something that is woke, or are we just going to wave goodbye?
He was trying to there, but this guy, you cannot, just because you agree with him, don't get on his side. The guy, both James O'Brien and the guy calling, are both idiots. And it is set up, though. It is set up for you to hear an idiot. For James O'Brien being a better conversationalist, being a radio show host, having like 15, 20 years experience doing this sort of gig. And this guy who hasn't got a clue, who's been chosen because he doesn't have a clue. They don't allow people who actually can have a conversation with James O'Brien on a James O'Brien show. That would be silly unless he agrees with them.
To each other and fill in the gaps for ourselves.
I'll let you fill in the gaps.
Now, you see, I've got a horrible feeling that you've done the polar opposite of what you rang in to do, and you've proved all the previous callers completely right. But, you know, good.
Which is exactly the point, isn't it? All of the previous callers who all defended it by the sounds of it, and were all saying the opposite to what this guy's saying. They were all given the room, and this guy, no space. They've chosen him carefully, and that proves their argument. This is James O'Brien. He's not giving you anything new. This is propaganda. This is making you think that the one way is all right and everybody agrees, and the other way is idiotic and you can't even imagine, people can't even explain themselves. When there's loads of people who can explain what the problem is with woke culture, just James O'Brien wouldn't have them on their show. Or the screeners wouldn't, or the producers wouldn't, because they're looking for idiots. Because idiot in, idiot out. That's what you get. So if you're watching this stuff and listening to this stuff regularly, you're listening to stuff that is degrading your mind.
Good luck to you.
Unbelievable. Well, there you go. James O'Brien being James O'Brien, a complete and utter knobhead. This is something that we see all of the time. They put in people a lot of, I mean, at least you could say Julie Hartley Brewer, even though she uses fallacies all of the time, at least she brings on people like Chris Williamson. He destroyed her in that interview. But if you actually bring on someone who knows how to debate, then you get a debate, and you have to. These people then evoke the tropes, and they have to work at their level. When they bring on someone like that, someone who doesn't know what the hell's going on, doesn't know the time of day, what are they going to get? They're going to get a load of people going, "Oh, look, he's right. James O'Brien's right because this guy's an idiot." To be James O'Brien, I've got to go like this in the corner, behind the microphone. Ooh, I'm bitching off everybody. He just looks like someone who's hateful. He sounds like someone who's hateful, and he's deciding what is hateful. That is what woke is. Deciding what the majority should think hateful is. And then, in amongst it, those people who got it within their character traits to be able to decide that about somebody else also present other character traits and make them target certain groups, certain people, and usually it's people who are fighting for freedom. And then woke movement gets supported financially, funded, because the other side has no money, has no funding. There's no way to really organize against it. But once you do, it's really easy to beat the movement. You really expose it very quickly. And this is what they do. They put out a straw man. They put out something they can burn really easily. And they don't even, if you're watching that and you think James O'Brien's clever, it's stupid. They brought on someone stupid on purpose. And that's not for anything more than to mess up your mind and make you think a certain way and make you think that going on that side makes you like that. Because that's what a fallacy is. That's what they do. Thank you for joining me on NEWSPASTY. I really enjoyed watching all of that. And that was full on pasties, both sides, full on pasty brain. See you next time. Like, share, subscribe. Support me if you can. Newspaste.com. See you later.
Shaping a great reset for the post-corona era.